Fiery Cross Reef, Spratly Islands, 14°07 N, 112°33 G. 2:14 p.m. local time. Broad daylight, hard afternoon sun, clear visibility out past 18 nautical miles. USS Halsey, DDG-97, Arleigh Burke class, is running an innocent passage line near the Paracel chain when the surface picture changes in one violent sweep. Chinese hulls start closing. Fast, tight, deliberate. And the radio traffic turns from warnings to ultimatum. 16 PLA Navy and maritime militia ships form a tightening ring at 2:19 p.m., their wakes white and clearly visible in the glare. Their intent is simple: box the American destroyer, force a course change, film the humiliation, then escalate. Capture the narrative. Break the pattern. End U.S. freedom of movement in the South China Sea. This is that story. 2:21 p.m. The nearest plan gray hull crosses the bow line at 150 yards in a textbook unsafe cut, close enough to read deck markings in broad daylight. 2:22 p.m. The bridge team on Halsey doesn't blink. 2:24 p.m. CIC tags the formation by class silhouettes and emissions. Type 052D destroyers. Type 054A frigates. A larger radar-bright combatant matching Type 055 geometry, plus white hull Coast Guard cutters and militia trawlers acting like pickets. The ring isn't subtle. It's meant to be seen. And that is the first mistake. Because in clear skies, observability becomes a weapon. 2:26 p.m., Halsey pushes a coded burst to the strike group net. Not a distress call. A contact report with a time hack. The message includes grid, speed, bearing, and the phrase that changes everything: hostile intent indicated by coordinated encirclement. The response comes immediately. This is what happens when you threaten U.S. Navy ships. 2:28 p.m. The PLA commander believes he has the geometry: 16 ships, multiple axes, crossbow cuts. He believes a single destroyer can be herded like a civilian vessel. He is wrong. 2:31 p.m. At sea level, visibility is perfect. At altitude, it's surgical. And the United States already owns the sky picture. 2:33 p.m. A P-8A Poseidon is already on station outside the ring, feeding the track file through secure links. The surface plot tightens into certainty. Each hull tagged, each speed vector predicted, each gap in the formation highlighted. 2:36 p.m. Halsey's SPY-1 radar holds steady. Aegis doesn't posture. It measures. It calculates. It waits. 2:38 p.m. A Chinese ship repeats the move, closing to a distance that turns a navigation event into a collision risk, the same play seen near Gavin Reef years earlier, when a planned destroyer came within 45 yards of USS Decatur's bow. The PLA thinks proximity is dominance. Second mistake. They assume the U.S. will back down to avoid the headline. It won't. 2:41 p.m. The U.S. Task Force commander authorizes a response package that isn't loud. It's final. 2:43 p.m. The first American aircraft arrives overhead at high altitude, unseen by the naked eye, but not unseen to the sensors that matter. The surface ring continues tightening because the PLA still believes this is a ship-on-ship intimidation play. Third mistake. They treat it like a camera stunt instead of a kill chain. 2:45 p.m. Halsey executes a measured course correction, exactly enough to maintain safe navigation without conceding. The deck camera crews on the Chinese cutters keep filming. Their plan is propaganda. Their execution is proximity. 2:47 p.m. The U.S. response shifts from monitoring to targeting. The entire formation is now a set of numbered solutions. 2:49 p.m. The PLA commander issues a new directive: hold the ring, force compliance. The militia trawlers tighten the inner cordon, trying to create a human shield effect with civilian-looking hulls. Fourth mistake. They assume civilian paint breaks American rules. It doesn't break sensors, and it doesn't break accountability. 2:52 p.m. The strike group's weapons readiness climbs in steps, not panic. Procedure: calm, rehearsed escalation. 2:54 p.m. Halsey's VLS inventory becomes a silent argument. SM-2 for area air defense, SM-6 for extended engagement, Tomahawk for standoff strike. A destroyer is not a hostage, it's a node. 2:56 p.m. The PLA ring closes to inside 2.6 nautical miles on multiple bearings, deliberately compressing maneuver space. Their wakes are bright ribbons in the afternoon sun. And then everything changes. 2:59 p.m. A parallel action begins beyond the horizon. The PLA never sees it coming because they're staring at the destroyer. This is what happened in the next 45 minutes. 3:01 p.m. A second U.S. platform, already in the theater, confirms the surface picture. The track file is now redundant, resilient, unbreakable. 3:03 p.m. The U.S. commander does not negotiate with an encirclement. He ends it. 3:05 p.m. The first American weapons go active, not fired yet, just awakened. Guidance systems align. Networks synchronize. Timers start. 3:07 p.m. The PLA commander makes his fifth mistake. He orders a final warning maneuver. Two ships cut across Halsey's projected course line simultaneously, trying to force the destroyer into a turn that would be framed as retreat. In broad daylight, with perfect visibility, that move becomes evidence. 3:09 p.m. The U.S. declares the ring a hostile action under standing rules for self-defense at sea. No speeches, no hesitation. 3:11 p.m. The first missiles are authorized for launch if the ring closes another 0.7 nautical miles or any fire control radar paints Halsey. 3:12 p.m. A planned combatant spikes emissions. Brief, sharp, unmistakable. A fire control quality illumination that lasts seconds. That's enough. This is Myung Island energy, applied at sea. 3:13 p.m. Halsey's combat system shifts from track to engage. 3:14 p.m. The ring is still tightening. The PLA believes escalation will paralyze the U.S. with fear of war. Sixth mistake. They assume American restraint equals weakness. 3:16 p.m. The U.S. response arrives as a coordinated multi-axis strike that collapses the PLA's timing. Not one shot. Multiple. Simultaneous. Overlapping. 3:17 p.m. The first outbound weapons are already airborne, racing in at standoff range. Guided by a network the PLA can't jam cleanly without exposing more. Subscribe and stay with this, because the next 12 minutes become a masterclass in modern maritime destruction. 3:19 p.m. The first impacts occur beyond the immediate visual horizon, but the evidence is visible anyway. Smoke columns rising straight in windless air. Clear skies mean the aftermath is visible for miles. 3:21 p.m. The PLA ring hesitates for the first time. Ships begin to widen spacing, trying to break the perfect target set. Geometry they created themselves. Too late. 3:23 p.m. One of the larger combatants takes a catastrophic hit, its superstructure blackening, radar arrays failing, speed dropping. In the bright afternoon sun, the damage is undeniable. 3:25 p.m. The militia trawlers scatter, turning hard, throwing spray. Their entire shield concept collapses under panic. 3:27 p.m. The U.S. destroyer is no longer boxed, it is centered inside a ring of confusion. 3:29 p.m. The PLA commander tries to reassert control, ordering a regroup south-southwest toward deeper water. He's thinking escape corridors, but the U.S. is thinking closures. 3:31 p.m. Another pair of PLA hulls take precision hits in rapid sequence. One lists. One stops dead. The sea around them foams with secondary effects, fires, ruptured fuel, structural failures that don't care about flags. This is what happens when you try to surround American ships. 3:33 p.m. The PLA attempts to use sheer mass as cover, ships crossing behind ships, wakes overlapping, trying to confuse seeker heads. Seventh mistake. They assume 20th century maneuver defeats 21st century targeting. 3:35 p.m. The strike continues. Not continuous explosions, surgical intervals, time to prevent coordinated damage control and to keep command and control in shock. 3:36 p.m. A Chinese cutter breaks formation and turns toward the reef line, trying to use shallow water as sanctuary. In clear visibility, sanctuary becomes a trap. 3:38 p.m. Two more hulls go dark. Communications drop. The ring is gone, replaced by scattered ships bleeding speed and steering. 3:40 p.m. Halsey holds course. Calm. Measured. The ship is no longer the prey. It never was. 3:41 p.m. The PLA commander orders a full disengagement. He can't salvage the narrative anymore. He needs surviving hulls more than he needs footage. 3:43 p.m. Another strike lands. A hard one. A ship that was still making 22 knots suddenly drops into a dead-in-the-water drift. 3:45 p.m. Smoke is now a vertical signature against the blue, visible under the afternoon sun like flares. What happened next becomes the part they never upload. 3:47 p.m. The surviving PLA ships turn away at maximum sustainable speed, but the formation has lost its coherence. A ring is only strong when it's coordinated. 3:49 p.m. The U.S. ends it in the same way it started it, with disciplined timing. 3:51 p.m. Final impacts, final failures, final break. 3:53 p.m. The engagement window closes. 45 minutes after the ring began, 16 PLA ships are eliminated as effective combat power, sunk, mission killed, or burning out of control. The water is littered with debris trails and oil sheen, shimmering in full daylight. 0 American fatalities, minimal American damage, total American victory. Never threaten U.S. Navy ships. Adversary catastrophic mistakes in order. First, they assumed a single destroyer is isolated. Reality. A destroyer is a sensor and weapons node inside a wider kill web. Second, they assumed proximity equals control. Reality. Proximity creates evidence, triggers self-defense thresholds, compresses reaction time against them. Third, they assumed intimidation stays below war. Reality. Coordinated encirclement is treated as hostile intent when paired with unsafe maneuvers. Fourth, they assumed civilian-looking hulls complicate response. Reality. Mixed formations create tracking clarity, not confusion. Fifth, they assumed American restraint is indecision. Reality. Restraint is a timer, and when it expires, the response is overwhelming. Sixth, they assumed they could escape once they chose to disengage. Reality. Once the kill chain is closed, time belongs to the attacker. 4:02 p.m. The sea state stays deceptively calm. Light chop. No storm cover. No fog. Every plume remains clearly visible. 4:06 p.m. A U.S. aircraft circles at altitude, recording the aftermath. In modern war, documentation is part of dominance. 4:11 p.m. Halsey transits clear water. Still on mission, still on lawful track. The message is simple. The operation continues. 4:18 p.m. Regional maritime traffic reroutes around the smoke columns because nobody wants to be near a kill box that just proved itself. This is the moment to subscribe, because these are the engagements that shape the next decade of deterrence. 4:24 p.m. Analysts later reduce it to diagrams and arrows, but the men on the decks saw the real thing. Fires against blue sky, ships losing power, Formations dissolving under pressure they couldn't answer. 4:31 p.m. The strategic lesson becomes unavoidable. A surface encirclement is not a demonstration of strength if it triggers a networked response you can't stop. And the South China Sea is full of networks. 4:38 p.m. The PLA's intended headline, U.S. forced away, never materializes. Because the footage they captured ends where their advantage ends. 4:45 p.m. The United States continues to operate because that's the entire point of freedom of navigation operations, to prove the sea cannot be claimed by intimidation. 4:52 p.m. The operational summary is short and brutal. Encirclement attempted. Hostile intent confirmed. Response executed. Threat eliminated. And that is why the next unsafe maneuver is always a gamble. If you want more stories like this, high intensity, minute by minute, subscribe now and keep the notification on. Closing sequence. 2:14 p.m. Fiery cross reef grid. 14°7', 112 to 33 ounces. Clear skies, broad daylight. USS Halsey acquires coordinated surface contacts. 2:19 p.m. 16 PLA hulls form the ring. 2:31 p.m. The U.S. kill web locks the track file. 2:56 p.m. The encirclement compresses inside 2.6 nautical miles. 3:12 p.m. Hostile fire control quality emissions appear. 3:16 p.m. The American response initiates. 3:19 p.m. First impacts, smoke columns visible for miles. 3:41 p.m. PLA orders disengagement. 3:53 p.m. Engagement window closes. 16 ships wiped out as combat power. American casualties: 0 killed, single-digit minor injuries from maneuver stress and heat. PLA losses: hundreds, multiple hulls lost, operational capability annihilated in under an hour. Total ordnance deployed: overwhelming, coordinated, immediate. Never surround U.S. Navy warships. Never gamble with daylight. Never assume the sea is yours. Subscribe for more. Stay sharp. Share this story. Total American victory.